Sandy Brondello is gone. The entire WNBA just got turned upside down. You don't dump the coach who just brought home a title unless you're covering something up. And you absolutely don't let her go unless you're worried about what's coming next. So when the New York Liberty showed Sandy Brondello the door, it didn't just shake the league, it uncorked it, because now she's loose out there, available, unclaimed. And one name keeps surfacing: Caitlyn Clark. And no one is sweating more right now than Stephanie White. If you want the unfiltered story, not the sanitized version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you definitely need to subscribe. Let's get this straight. Stephanie isn't just some coach. She's the head coach of the Indiana Fever, the team that just landed the biggest name in women's basketball in a generation. Caitlyn Clark, the golden goose, the phenom, the ratings engine, the future. And at the rate things are going, she might not stay in Indiana very long if the right changes don't happen. And if you think that's an overreach, you haven't been watching closely. Because there's a name that's been murmured in Clark's circle since before draft night. A coach she respects. A coach who understands her. A coach who could unleash every drop of her beautiful chaos, elevating her game into full-blown superstardom. Sandy freaking Brondello. Let's not minimize what just went down. Brondello didn't just get dismissed. She was tossed out of a system that feared what she stood for: power without permission. A woman who spoke her mind, who publicly backed Clark, who wasn't afraid to puncture the WNBA's carefully curated narratives and say what's real. She wins. 2 WNBA championships, architect of deep playoff runs, leader of stars. No drama, just results. So, you think this was about XS and OS? Come on. This was politics. This was calculated. This was the league choosing control over chemistry. And now the fissures are starting to show. And dead center, Stephanie White, hanging onto her chair as a storm gathers around her. Because fans aren't just chatting, they're demanding. Brondello to Indiana. Brondello with Clark. Brondello turning the Fever into a basketball lab. A place where brilliance doesn't just survive, it detonates. Let's rewind. At the 2025 All-Star Game, the world saw something the league probably hoped would slip by unnoticed. Chemistry. Real, undeniable chemistry between Caitlyn Clark and Sandy Brondello. Brondello coached that night. Clark started. The sets hummed. The spacing was spotless. And Clark looked unlocked, not just confident, but free. She was smiling, laughing, sprinting the floor like she owned it. And when she came off, she went straight to Sandy. You can't fake that. And if you were really paying attention, you saw something else. Respect. The kind you don't manufacture with PR or team media days. The kind born of shared vision, of mutual understanding. From the unspoken, unbreakable code between a superstar and the coach who knows how to absorb the pressure without smothering the flame. That kind of bond is rare, and the league knows it, which is why they're spooked. Because if Sandy Brondello lands in Indiana, if the whispers are true and the Fever are quietly feeling out the possibilities, everything shifts. We're talking about a power pairing that could rewire the whole WNBA. Not in 5 years. Not next year. Right now. And if you're Stephanie White, that's not just a threat, that's a countdown. Because as much as she's done to help steer the Fever to this point, let's be honest, this isn't the same team as last year. This is Caitlyn Clark's team now. And if Clark starts believing someone else could get her there faster, freer, with more fire, she won't stay quiet about it. And don't get it twisted. Clark isn't the type to throw anyone under the bus. She's not out here bringing DA energy. But she also won't sit back and let her career be shaped by comfort over championship potential. She wants to win, and so does Sandy Brondello. And that winning combination is just sitting there, available. So why hasn't it happened? That's where it gets messy. Because despite the fan push, the media chatter, and the player whispers, something's in the way: league politics. The same toxic undercurrent that helped nudge Brondello out of New York is now grinding overtime to keep her out of Indiana. Because if she joins forces with Clark, that isn't just a pairing, it's an uprising. And uprisings scare the people at the top. Because Brondello doesn't play the game. She doesn't follow scripts. She doesn't clear it with anyone before she praises the league's brightest star. She tells the truth, draws up winners, and collects championships. And that's too much power in one place. So here we are again. The slow walking, the tactical distractions, the quiet re-signings, the not-so-subtle messaging through league mouthpieces, all crafted to make enough noise to stall the unavoidable. But here's the rub. You can't snuff out a fire that's already caught. The fans want it. The players want it. Clark absolutely wants it. And deep down, Stephanie White knows it too. Which is why she's in a panic. Because this stopped being just about coaching. It's about relevance, survival, choosing to be part of the next era, or getting left behind as it blazes past. And listen, we're not calling Stephanie a bad coach. She's done solid work. She's navigated a team in flux. But this is a whole different altitude. This is about championship DNA, and Brondello has it in her veins. So here's the real question. What's the league going to do? Are they going to let greatness happen? Or are they going to try to smother it again? Keeping Clark boxed into a system that doesn't serve her full potential just to keep the narrative tidy? Because we all know how that ends. You can only bottle up a movement so long before it erupts. And if they think Clark won't make noise, if they believe fans will accept business as usual, they're not paying attention. Not anymore. Because the vibe around this league has shifted. Fans are locked in. They're sharper, louder, and done being gaslit by corporate quiet. We see what's going on. We saw Sandy get pushed out for doing her job too well. We saw Clark's response. We saw the all-star magic. We see how Brondello's kept at arm's length while lesser names are cycled through the carousel like it's a charity draw. And we're not buying it. The truth is, if Sandy Brondello lands in Indiana, the league changes overnight. Clark gets a coach who won't tame her. The Fever become instant contenders. And the WNBA finally gets its LeBron, Pat Riley era. Its Brady, Belichick moment. The sort of pairing that puts people in seats, eyes on screens, and trophies in cases. Or the league can block it, preserve the old order, choose comfort over greatness, and we'll be here for every beat. But let's be honest, that won't work forever. Because Sandy Brondello has nothing left to prove and everything left to change. And if Caitlyn Clark gets tired of waiting, well, let's just say she won't be the one to slip away quietly. So what do you think? Should the Fever pull the trigger and bring her to Indiana? Is Stephanie White just a placeholder now? Or is the league playing a risky game by keeping Clark from the coach who can unlock her full powers? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because this isn't just a story. It's the start of a basketball revolution. We're past the point of wait and see. This is a pressure cooker and the steam is building fast. Every day Brondello stays unsigned, and every day Caitlyn Clark is told to work miracles in a system not built for her, the tension thickens. And you can feel it, from the fans to the front office. Let's call it what it is. The WNBA is playing chess with a ticking device. Because Sandy isn't just available. She's strategically available. Fresh off a championship, backed by players, respected across the board. And let's not forget, fired under circumstances that reek of league interference and image management. Now the fan base is doing what the league should have done from day one, connecting the dots. The questions are louder. Why would an elite, proven coach be tossed aside like that? Why hasn't Indiana at least called? Why pretend everything's fine when we all watched Clark and Brondello light up an entire arena at All-Star Weekend? You don't get that kind of synergy twice. It's once-in-a-generation stuff. But instead of seizing that moment, the league drags its feet, stalls, spins, trying to tape together some story about direction and continuity. Please. The real reason Sandy hasn't been hired by Indiana? Power. Politics. The league doesn't want too much influence in one spot, especially not with a player. They're still trying to micromanage, because a Clark-Brondello union doesn't just win games, it changes the balance of power in the W. Suddenly you've got a star who doesn't need protection and a coach who doesn't need permission. You've got independence, influence, a team that doesn't need instructions on how to move because they already know how to lead. And that terrifies the higher-ups. Now, back to Stephanie White, because her reality isn't just pressure. It's survival mode. She knows the rumors. She sees the headlines. She's scrolling the same tweets, watching the fan montages, hearing former players calling for this Brondello, Clark era to be real. And look, Stephanie is doing what she can. She's trying to steady the room, integrate Clark, and ride out a media firestorm that's only getting louder. But the question is, what is she actually building toward? Because if it isn't a championship, if it isn't a true vision for maximizing Clark's generational ability, then what is it? A holding pattern? A safe choice? A continuation of the middle? That won't cut it anymore. The Fever fanbase isn't just watching, they're waking up. They've had a taste of greatness, and they're hungry for more. This isn't the Caitlyn Clark they watched steamroll Iowa. This is a version trapped in a system still operating like it's 2019. And Brondello? She's not a coach who waits to be told her team's identity. She defines it. She's not the coach who burns 2 timeouts and runs the same action 3 times hoping it magically clicks. She builds machines. Tactical, aggressive, inventive. She trusts her stars, gives them space to be themselves, and holds them accountable without putting them in a box. That's what Clark needs. Not a chaperone, not a handler, a partner. And Brondello is the only free agent coach right now with a resume proving she can coach big personalities, balance ego with execution, and keep a locker room functional under extreme pressure. Why isn't that automatic? You know why. Because once that duo hits, the league doesn't control the narrative anymore. Clark wouldn't need a protective PR bubble. She'd have a coach who actually understands her game, someone not still trying to wedge her into a playbook written for someone else, someone who lets her lead while checking her when needed. That balance is rare. And the league knows that once they link up, they own the moment. Not the commissioner, not the front office, not the legacy media forcing narratives fans stopped buying 2 years ago. Brondello and Clark would build more than a win-loss record. They'd build a movement. And for a league still obsessed with hierarchy and message control, that's scary. Here's where it gets wild. There's a swelling faction of fans already organizing, posting Clark highlight reels from games Brondello coached, breaking down all-star rotations, comparing offensive sets between Liberty and Fever games, and the gap is staggering. When Brondello had the clipboard, Clark was moving off the ball, hitting rhythm pull-ups, slicing defenses like a blade. The floor was wide open. Mismatches were hunted. Confidence through the roof. Now she's handed a playbook she has to translate on the fly, dragging her team through half-court mud, trying to shoot out of schemes that don't even fit her. For what? To protect a coaching seat. Because let's be honest, if Sandy doesn't go to Indiana and Clark struggles again, fans won't blame Clark. They'll look to the bench and ask the question that's already smoldering. Why didn't we make the move when we had the chance? And once that starts, that's how coaching tenures end. Stephanie White knows it. Everyone does. So now the question isn't whether Sandy Brondello should go to Indiana. It's how long the league can hold it back before the dam bursts. Because the minute Brondello walks into that room, everything flips. The Fever stop being a work in progress and become a problem for everyone. Clark starts playing free again. The games stop feeling like exams and start feeling like shows. Fans flood in. The team starts stacking wins. And suddenly Indiana isn't just a fun thread. They're the centerpiece of the WNBA. That's the leverage of one coaching move. And right now, that move is being delayed. Not because it lacks sense, but because it makes too much sense. And the league's still clinging to the illusion of control. But they can't hold it forever. Clark's not sitting still indefinitely. Brondello's not staying on the sideline. And the fans are already turning this into a movement. So if the Fever don't make it happen, it won't just be a missed chance. It'll be the biggest strategic error in franchise history. Because you don't get windows like this twice. You don't land a generational player and a title-winning free agent coach with proven chemistry at the same time, and then do nothing. That's how dynasties are missed, not made. So here's the ask. Is the WNBA ready to evolve, or will it trip over itself again? Because at day's end, this isn't just coaching. It's about whether the league has the nerve to let greatness happen when it's staring right at them. And for Indiana, this is your moment. Don't play it safe. Don't wait for permission. Don't try to manage Caitlyn Clark. Let her lead, and give her the coach who can take her higher. Because if you don't, someone else will. What started as a controversial firing has now morphed into the defining power struggle of the season. At the center, a showdown that could flip the balance overnight. Stephanie White versus Sandy Brondello. But let's keep it real. This isn't just about two coaches. It's two philosophies, two paths, two futures for Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever. And one ends in greatness. The other ends in headlines no team wants. Clark frustrated with system. Tension brewing in Fever locker room. Generational talent. Wasted. That's the road Indiana is flirting with. Because the truth is, this isn't sustainable. You can't keep a star like Clark caged inside a scheme built to reduce chaos when her chaos is what breaks the game. You can't coach like a role player when she's the one bringing in sponsors, ratings, merch, and literal millions in new engagement. And most importantly, you can't treat her as interchangeable. She isn't. But that's exactly what Stephanie White's system does. Plugging Clark into a rigid framework that leaves no room for improvisation. The plays are cautious. The pace is slow. The motion is predictable. And sure, it's organized. It reads like basketball on paper. But it isn't Clark's basketball. It isn't Brondello's brand either. And that's what makes this so compelling. Sandy Brondello is the exact opposite of what Clark is dealing with. She doesn't mute stars. She turns them up. Look at her ledger. She coached Diana Taurasi, let her be fiery and vocal, and got peak years. She coached Brittany Griner through her rise to MVP-level dominance. She shaped a Liberty team, from wild card energy into a disciplined title squad, without dulling the flash of players like Sabrina Ionescu and Bettany Jelani. Sandy knows how to hold fire and function in the same hand. And Clark, she's fire. She needs a coach who can hold the reins without clipping her wings. Stephanie White is still trying to make Clark fit a team not built for her, and it shows. The team looks tentative. No rhythm. Spacing is off. Clark is constantly forced into isolation sets, with no weak side movement. Her off-ball genius barely tapped. Her pick-and-roll mastery underused. Her transition magic bottled. Worst of all, you can see it in her face. She's frustrated. She's trying to hold it together, be the leader, play the part. But body language doesn't lie. The quick head turns after broken actions, the sidelong looks at the bench, the visible gap between what she wants to do and what she's allowed to do. And that's a crack in the dam. Because the minute that frustration goes public, the entire organization feels the quake. And if Brondello is still on the market when that hits, it's game over for Stephanie White. You know who else sees it? The players. Veterans and rookies alike. They know when a system is stuck. They know when the pace is too tight, too slow, too constrained. And when you've got Clark, who could be running circles around people, but instead she's pulling from 28 feet out of need, not choice, that's a sign something's broken. And here's the part that should rattle Indiana. Sandy Brondello is sitting, watching, waiting, not begging, not chasing, just ready. She knows her worth. She knows the timing. And she knows this game better than many of the people trying to politic her out of it. The league might think it can bury this story, assume fans will forget the firing, assume Clark will simply adjust, but you can't spin results. The games speak. And right now, Clark's impact is muted, not because she's failing, but because she's undersupported. She's being asked to shine through structures designed to dim her. Meanwhile, the one coach who could maximize her is treated like an outsider. Want irony? Here it is. Brondello is the one person who can protect the league from itself. Let that sink in. Because if the WNBA keeps stalling this pairing, they're not just toying with team dynamics, they're risking the whole wave. The Clark wave, the surge that carried the league into mainstream chatter, into sold-out buildings, into new TV deals and historic visibility. And it's all in danger of being wasted over pride and politics. This isn't just a coaching call. It's a business decision. And right now, the business is suffering, because as long as this partnership is bottled up, the story stays fractured. Fans get angrier, games get clunkier, ratings dip, players get irritated, and eventually Clark leaves. Don't think she won't. She isn't chained to the WNBA the way earlier generations were. She has options. She has leverage. And if she isn't allowed to play her game with her coach and be treated like the game changer she is, she'll go where she's valued. And at that point, it won't be about a coach anymore. It'll be about how the league managed to fumble its biggest star. Let's be real, there's one route that leads to something iconic. Something revolutionary. Something that moves the game forward. Clark and Brondello together. Picture that team, the spacing, the movement, the swagger. A machine that plays like jazz, where Clark isn't trapped by the sets but unleashed by them. Where every screen is a blade, every rotation precise, every possession a threat. That's the basketball that sells, grows the sport, and forges dynasties. More importantly, it's the basketball people remember. But if Indiana drags its feet, if the league keeps up the charade, someone else will move. An expansion franchise, a new market. Maybe even an international outfit with a blank check and no patience for politics. Because at the end of the day, somebody is going to unlock Caitlyn Clark. And when that happens, it's a wrap. She'll break records, shift culture, redefine how the game is played and watched. The only question is, will Indiana be the place where that happens, or just a footnote in her origin story? So, what do you think? Has Stephanie White run out of time? Is the league playing games with Clark's career? And should the Fever drop everything and hire Sandy Brondello before it's too late? Leave your thoughts below and hit subscribe if you want to stay ahead of every twist in the league's most explosive storyline. Because this isn't just another season. This is the moment. And if they miss it, they won't get